She didn't marry him for love. She married him to stop a war that had quietly grown between two powerful families in New York. Olivia Carter stood in the middle of it all, two names, two empires, and a lifetime of decisions she never made for herself. The agreement was simple on paper: a marriage to end years of silent hostility, a union meant to bring balance back to everything that had been slipping out of control. But from the very beginning, there was something no one spoke about, because the real danger was never just outside that marriage. It was inside it. And worse, it came from the one man she was now bound to for life. Olivia Carter was 26 years old, and in the world she came from, that age already carried expectations heavier than most people twice her age could understand. She was the only daughter of the Carter family in Boston, a name tied to luxury real estate, high-rise developments, and long-standing competition with another family that had been shaping the city's skyline for decades. From childhood, Olivia learned early that silence was often safer than opinion, and composure mattered more than emotion. Her father didn't raise her to dream freely. He raised her to stabilize what others in the family kept breaking. Meetings, negotiations, private disagreements. She had seen all of it long before she understood what any of it meant. By the time she was an adult, she was already known in business circles as the one who could keep things steady, the daughter who didn't react, didn't argue, didn't let emotions interfere with decisions. But behind that calm presence was a life shaped by constant pressure to preserve a legacy she never chose, and to hold together a family that survived more on competition than connection. And in the center of all of it was a growing expectation that one day she would be the one to settle the conflict that had followed the Carters for years, even if it meant giving up her own life in the process. The meeting took place in a private room high above Manhattan, where the glass walls made everything below look distant and controlled, like the city itself was holding its breath. Olivia Carter was seated across from a man she had only ever heard about in boardrooms and business reports: Ethan Whitmore. He was composed in a way that didn't invite questions. Expensive suit, steady posture, eyes that revealed very little. The kind of presence that made conversations feel like negotiations even before a single word was spoken. Their families had spent years competing, buying land, blocking developments, undercutting contracts. A quiet war fought through influence and capital, with both sides refusing to back down. Until now, Ethan's father spoke first, outlining terms that sounded more like legal arrangements than anything personal. Mergers, alliances, stabilization of assets across both empires. Then came the part no one softened. This marriage is not about love, Olivia's father said firmly, without looking away from the table. It's about survival. The room stayed quiet after that. No one added anything. No one needed to. Olivia felt the weight of it settle in, not as a suggestion, but as something already decided long before she walked into the room. Across from her, Ethan didn't react. No objection, no approval, just acceptance, as though the outcome had already been calculated and approved somewhere far above them both. When the papers were finally placed in front of her, she hesitated for only a moment longer than anyone noticed. Then she signed, not because she wanted to, but because in her world, refusing would not stop the outcome. It would only delay the cost. The first time Olivia Carter saw Ryan Blake, it was not in a place where introductions were expected. It happened at a charity development project on the edge of Brooklyn, one of those high-profile restoration sites meant to rebuild old structures into something modern, polished, and profitable, the kind of project both families would normally have influence over, yet neither had fully controlled. Olivia was there on behalf of the Whitmore-Carter Agreement, reviewing early plans for a public development initiative tied to their newly formed alliance. Ethan Whitmore stood a few steps away, speaking with investors, calm and distant as always. That was when Ryan appeared. No announcement, no formal introduction, just a man standing near the site plans, as if he had every right to be there. Ryan Blake, an architect and consultant whose name didn't belong to either family, yet seemed familiar in certain circles of industry discussion. He carried himself with ease, not seeking attention, but naturally holding it anyway. Olivia noticed him before she understood why. He wasn't loud. He didn't interrupt conversations. He simply observed, listening more than speaking, as though he understood the structure of things beyond what was visible on paper. When their paths finally crossed, it was brief, a simple exchange about the project layout. Nothing personal, nothing intentional, yet something about the way he spoke, calm, direct, unforced, made Olivia pause longer than she expected. Not because it was inappropriate, but because it felt unfamiliar in a world where every interaction came with an agenda. Across the site, Ethan was still talking business, still calculating outcomes, still in control of every visible detail. But for a moment, Olivia found her attention drifting back to Ryan, as if her thoughts had moved somewhere her decisions had not authorized. Ryan, on the other hand, looked at her once, properly without hesitation, and then returned to his work as though the moment carried no importance at all. But it did, and neither of them acknowledged it. Not yet. As Olivia stepped away, a quiet thought settled beneath everything else she had been told that day. She didn't know it yet, but this man would stand in the path of everything she was being prepared to build. The wedding did not feel like a celebration. It felt like a transition. Olivia Carter became Olivia Whitmore in a ceremony that was carefully planned, quietly executed, and attended by people who spoke more about outcomes than emotions. Cameras captured smiles that did not reach anyone's eyes, and conversations stayed politely distant, as if everyone understood this was less about union and more about agreement. Afterward, she moved into the Whitmore residence in Manhattan, a penthouse overlooking the city, polished and expensive in every detail. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist design, spaces that looked perfect but felt untouched. Ethan Whitmore was already there when she arrived. He showed her the home the same way he would present a business asset, efficiently, without unnecessary commentary. Her room was separate. His was across the hall. The arrangement was never discussed. It was simply understood. Days followed a pattern that quickly became routine. Breakfast was scheduled, not shared. Conversations were brief and centered on meetings, contracts, or upcoming appearances tied to the family's new alliance. There was no casual familiarity, no lingering presence, no attempt to bridge the distance between them. Ethan remained composed at all times, speaking when necessary, silent when not. Even when they were in the same space, it often felt like he was already elsewhere in his mind. Olivia adjusted, as she had always been trained to do. She attended events beside him, answered questions when needed, and played the role expected of her in public. But in private, the silence between them grew heavier. There were moments when she would catch him watching her, but only briefly, and never in a way that revealed what he was thinking. And when she tried to meet his gaze directly, he would look away first, as if avoiding something he had no intention of explaining. Night after night, she sat alone in a home that was hers on paper, but not in feeling. And slowly, a question began to form in the quiet spaces he left behind. But what Olivia didn't understand was why Ethan never looked her in the eye. The encounters began to repeat themselves in ways that could no longer be easily dismissed as coincidence. Olivia first saw Ryan Blake again at a construction review meeting tied to a new public housing initiative in Lower Manhattan. She was there in an official capacity, reviewing proposals alongside Whitmore representatives. Ethan was absent that day, occupied with another merger discussion. Ryan was already on site when she arrived. He was speaking with engineers, standing near structural plans pinned against temporary boards, marking adjustments with quiet confidence. There was no announcement of his presence, yet it felt as though he belonged there more than anyone else in the room. Their eyes met briefly. No reaction from him that suggested surprise. Only recognition, as if their previous meeting had already placed her within a space he was prepared for. They spoke again, briefly, formally, about design constraints and community impact. But unlike the controlled exchanges Olivia had grown used to, Ryan spoke with clarity that left room for thought, not pressure. He did not attempt to impress her. He did not attempt to position himself. He simply responded. Later, their paths crossed again at a charity foundation review hosted in Midtown. This time, Olivia was not expecting him at all. Yet there he was, sitting among consultants and advisors, contributing to discussions that neither Carter nor Whitmore directly controlled. And again, their interaction was unplanned. A comment she made during a funding discussion drew his attention. He challenged her perspective, not aggressively, but with precision that made her reconsider her own assumptions before she had time to defend them. It unsettled her in a way she did not immediately understand, because in every environment she entered, people agreed with her, deferred to her position, or carefully shaped their responses around her family name. Ryan did none of that. Instead, he treated her as someone whose ideas could be examined, not simply accepted. And strangely, she found herself speaking more freely around him than she had in months. There were moments when his presence changed the tone of the room without effort. A small comment that made her laugh unexpectedly during a tense discussion. A pause in conversation where she realized she was actually thinking differently, not just responding. But none of it was defined. Nothing was acknowledged beyond the moment itself. Still, something began to form between the gaps of their encounters, something unspoken, growing quietly each time their paths crossed. Until one afternoon, after a city planning hearing, Ryan made a remark that lingered longer than anything else that day. He mentioned Ethan Whitmore, not directly, but in a way that suggested familiarity far deeper than Olivia had been led to believe. Not as a competitor, not as a stranger, but as someone tied to a past Olivia had not yet been told to question. And for the first time, the distance between what she knew and what she was being shown began to feel less stable than before. The moment Olivia Carter began to understand Ryan Blake, it did not come through a confession. It came through fragments, small details that didn't fit neatly into the version of reality she had been living inside. It happened late, one evening after a city planning hearing in downtown Manhattan. The building was nearly empty, the kind of silence that makes footsteps sound louder than conversation. Olivia had stayed behind to review documents when Ryan appeared again, unannounced as he often did. This time, however, something had changed in the way he spoke. There was no ease in his voice, no lightness in his expression, only a controlled stillness that carried the weight of memory. He asked her a question about Ethan Whitmore, not about the present, but about older decisions, past projects, failed partnerships, a development deal that had once been heavily discussed in industry circles, but never publicly explained. Olivia didn't have answers. Not real ones. But Ryan did. And for the first time, he stopped speaking around the truth. He told her that years ago, before the current alliance, Ethan Whitmore had been part of a partnership that included him, a business venture that was meant to reshape parts of New York's waterfront development. But something had gone wrong. Contracts shifted, ownership changed hands. Rights were reassigned under circumstances that were never publicly challenged. And Ryan lost everything tied to that project. His company, his influence, his position in the industry, not through failure, but through decisions made by people he once trusted. Olivia listened without interrupting, her expression steady, though something beneath her composure had begun to shift, because what he was describing did not match the Ethan she knew in public. The controlled, distant man who treated everything as strategy rather than emotion. And yet, Ryan was not speaking like someone guessing. He was speaking like someone who had lived it. The silence between them stretched before he said it clearly without raising his voice. Everything you think you know about your husband is a lie. The words did not feel dramatic. They felt precise. Olivia didn't respond immediately, not because she didn't hear him, but because every explanation she had been given about her marriage suddenly felt like it had been placed on unstable ground. Ryan did not push further. He didn't need to. He simply watched her process it, as if he already understood what the realization would do. And for the first time since her marriage began, Olivia was forced to consider a possibility she had never been allowed to examine. That the life she had stepped into might not be built on truth at all. The tension did not arrive all at once. It built slowly in the quiet spaces Olivia Carter could no longer ignore. After Ryan's revelation, everything in her daily life began to feel slightly misaligned. Conversations with Ethan Whitmore became even shorter, more structured, as if he had narrowed his world down to only what was necessary to maintain control. He no longer asked about her day. He no longer engaged beyond logistics. Meetings, schedules, appearances, everything remained strictly professional, even inside their marriage. And when Olivia tried to observe him more closely, she noticed something else. He was careful in how he spoke, careful in what he revealed, careful in what he avoided, as if every word had already been weighed long before it left his mouth. At the same time, Ryan Blake remained present in her life in ways that could no longer be explained away as coincidence or circumstance. Their encounters continued at public forums, development discussions, and quiet meetings that always seemed to place them in the same orbit. But now the conversations carried more weight. Ryan no longer held back what he knew. He spoke openly about the past, about what had been taken from him, and about the decisions that had shaped Ethan Whitmore's rise in ways the public never saw. And unlike before, he no longer measured his words. There were moments when he simply looked at her and spoke honestly, without filtering what it might do to her perception. He wasn't asking her to choose, but the space between them was becoming harder to ignore. Olivia found herself caught between two realities, one she had committed to legally, socially, publicly, and another that was beginning to feel increasingly difficult to dismiss. Then came the shift. Ethan called her into a private conversation one evening at the penthouse. The city lights outside stretched across the windows, distant and unmoving, while inside, the atmosphere felt heavier than usual. He didn't begin with questions. He began with awareness, as if he already knew what she had been hearing. And then, without warning, he addressed it directly. "You were never supposed to meet him," Ethan finally said. The words landed without emotion, but their weight filled the room completely. Olivia froze, not from surprise alone, but from the realization that this was not a misunderstanding forming between three people. It was something that had been in motion long before she entered it. Ethan didn't explain further. He didn't need to, but for the first time, Olivia saw something different in him. Not anger, not fear, but control tightening around something that was beginning to shift outside his reach. And in that moment, she understood the true cost of standing between two men who had histories she had never been told about. The truth did not come gently. It arrived in fragments that finally connected into something Olivia Carter could no longer unsee. It began with documents, not the kind she was used to signing in boardrooms or reviewing in meetings, but older records, financial trails, ownership transfers, and legal restructures tied to both families. Information that should have remained buried in closed negotiations and private agreements. Ryan Blake had obtained them through channels Olivia didn't fully understand. He didn't present them as accusations at first. He presented them as evidence, carefully arranged, precise, and difficult to dismiss. And with every page she looked at, the structure of her marriage began to change shape in front of her. Ethan Whitmore had not entered the union simply to bring peace between two rival families. The records suggested something far more calculated. The merger agreement that led to their marriage included clauses that quietly shifted influence over key Carter assets, properties, holdings, and strategic developments that had been under Olivia's family control for years. The kind of assets that defined long-term power in their industry. And her signature, placed under the assumption of alliance, had become part of that transition. Olivia's breath tightened as she read further. This was not a symbolic marriage. It was structural. And Ryan's involvement was not accidental either. According to what he showed her, he had been tracking Ethan for years, trying to expose the same pattern of acquisitions and forced consolidations that had once destroyed his own position in the industry. He hadn't approached Olivia to pull her away from Ethan. He had approached her because she was already inside it, inside something that was never fully explained to her before she agreed. The realization pressed heavily into the silence between them, and then Olivia said it out loud, though her voice barely held steady. This was never just about peace. Ryan didn't interrupt because she was already reaching the answer herself. Ethan Whitmore had built the marriage not only as an alliance, but as a means of securing influence that extended far beyond public negotiation. And Olivia Carter had been placed at the center of it, not as a partner, but as a key. Or another version emerged in her mind just as sharply, one she had not considered before. That Ethan Whitmore had never been indifferent to her at all. That beneath the distance and control, there had been something unspoken for a long time. A choice he had made between emotion and ambition, and he had chosen ambition every time. Olivia stepped back slightly, the weight of everything she had just understood settling into her expression. Because now, nothing about her marriage could be viewed the same way again. 3 months later, Olivia Carter was no longer living in New York. There were no boardrooms, no scheduled appearances, no carefully managed conversations between families whose histories had once defined her entire life. Everything she had known had been left behind without announcement. The Whitmore name no longer carried weight in her daily decisions. The Carter legacy no longer dictated her direction. Even the city itself felt like a chapter she had quietly closed without turning back to reread it. She had gone somewhere far quieter, a coastal town far from the noise of financial districts and glass towers, where mornings began with open air instead of headlines, and time moved without the pressure of constant negotiation. For the first time in years, her life no longer belonged to agreements made on her behalf. It belonged only to her. She didn't speak about what happened in New York, not to anyone who asked, not even to herself in the way she once tried to make sense of it. Some truths she realized did not need constant revisiting to remain real. on an ordinary afternoon. She walked along a quiet stretch near the water, where the wind carried no reminders of names she once carried like obligations. And that was when she saw him, Ryan Blake, not introduced, not announced, not placed into her life through circumstance or arrangement, just there, standing at a distance that suggested he had not come to claim anything, only to exist in the same space she now occupied. For a moment, neither of them spoke, because in this place there were no families to represent, no alliances to maintain, no history to defend. Only two people who had once been defined by everything around them, now meeting without any of it. And as Olivia looked at him, she understood something quietly without needing it explained. Sometimes the most important part of a story is not what it began as, but what remains when everything else is gone. If you were Olivia, would you choose the peace that comes from stepping away from everything you once knew, or the person who understands your heart in a way no agreement, no name, and no past ever could? Tell me in the comments.